White women actively participated in the slave economy rather than being passive bystanders. They engaged in buying, selling, and owning slaves, with approximately 40% of slave owners being white women. The more slaves a woman possessed, the more power she held, intertwining slave ownership with her identity. This is the true story of how white women treated their black slaves during the more than 400 years of slavery in the United States. The impact of slavery spanned generations, creating a psychological distortion that deeply affected the lives of both enslaved individuals and their oppressors. The white-dominated society established a violent and oppressive system that employed tactics such as lynchings, beatings, and savage treatment to terrorize the black community. Even in the absence of physical violence, segregation persisted in communities, housing, and the criminal justice system, with discriminatory policies pervading all aspects of American society. Before the Civil War in the southern United States, white women faced restrictions such as the inability to vote upon marriage, where their husbands assumed the role of the household head, limiting women's mobility and freedom. However, white women actively sought legal ownership of slaves, and court battles often resulted in their favor. For these women, slavery became a means of asserting their freedom and power. Contrary to earlier historical perspectives that downplayed the role of white women in slavery, recent research, including interviews with black individuals conducted by scholars like Jones Rogers, reveals a more accurate portrayal of their involvement. From a young age, white girls were trained to become slave owners, inheriting the practice from family members who instilled the values of ownership and control over enslaved individuals. Marriage further empowered white women, allowing them to use their social standing to maintain and expand their slave ownership. They often went to court to assert their legal rights over slaves, challenging the notion that coverture restricted married white women's property ownership. Through prenuptial agreements and legal documents, women could secure control over their property separate from marital assets. White women were instrumental in reproducing slave society within their households, mimicking the dominion they observed from their parents. Enslaved individuals, including women, faced brutality from some white women, who invested in them for forced reproduction and even ran brothels. The exploitation extended to the practice of separating black women from their families to serve as wet nurses for white children, allowing white women to pursue social events while delegating childcare responsibilities. The post-Civil War era brought new challenges as white women resisted the abolition of slavery. They sought compensation, moved enslaved individuals away from war-affected areas, and negotiated labor conditions with freed black people. The establishment of black codes and later Jim Crow laws reinforced racial hierarchies and restricted the rights of black individuals, undermining the progress made during the Reconstruction era. The rise of organizations like the Ku Klux Klan, KKK, further perpetuated racism and violence. The Women's KKK, WKKK, emerged as a separate but affiliated group, wielding significant influence. While not as physically violent as their male counterparts, WKKK members were skilled manipulators, using social standing to advance their racist agendas. They engaged in various activities, including organizing social clubs, boycotting businesses, and supporting candidates aligned with the Klan's beliefs. In conclusion, white women played an active and often brutal role in the history of slavery in the United States. Their involvement in the slave economy, manipulation of social structures, and contributions to racist organizations highlight the complexity of their roles during this dark period in American history.